Hey, this is the World Advice Channel 2. What I want to talk about today is a topic of why liberalism is better than conservatism. So for this video, I'm going to explain in a simple and straightforward way why liberalism is better than conservatism when it comes to running a nation, in a way, of course, people who are unfamiliar with the topic can understand. Okay, so now that I mentioned that, let's get started. So when it comes to the topic of why liberalism is better than conservatism, is that liberalism is an advocate for change, okay? Liberals, the point of liberalism is to always want change, to be honest with you. Whether it can come down to things like technology, infrastructure, medicine, etc., liberalism is an advocate for those things, okay? To be quite blunt and honest with you, okay? To speak the honest truth, to be honest with you, okay? Because when you actually look at the history books throughout all of history, okay, even all the way to the 1800s, even aside from obviously the controversy, of course, surrounding slavery and all that type of stuff, throughout the Western world specifically, when you actually look at the history of the world, everything that advocated for change that we take so for granted today, everything from the idea of machinery being used as a way to power things, the idea of an updated infrastructure system, all that type of stuff you can imagine and beyond, whether it could be Britain, America, Japan, and literally every country in the world, the people who had those beliefs, were liberals. Were what we'd consider today, to be liberals in one way, shape, or form or another. Okay, they're considered liberals, while the more conservative people at the time all hated those ideas. They always said, "Oh, that's a terrible idea. That would never happen," and this and that. With a good example being, of course, America. Oh my goodness, here we go again. Of course, it's always America, specifically the ones in the South. When you actually look at the history books, aside from, of course, the controversy surrounding slavery, which, of course, slavery was a terrible thing. But even aside from that, slavery at that point in history, especially with the fact that there's so much more people than before, and and just different things, that were going on in the world at the time, slavery was an outdated system because, the amount of work a machine could do the amount of work a slave could do in and not just a slave, but numerous slaves, 10 slaves, 50 slaves could probably do in a week. It could do it in a day, So it's an outdated system, and not even just related to developing better methods for agriculture, farming and stuff like that. It was also other things as well, just the development of trains, the development of light bulbs, all that type of stuff, and it's the development of America as a whole, the infrastructure that, of course, today in America specifically, of course, let alone the world, but specifically America, they take so for granted. When you look at the actual history, all the conservatives always said that would never happen, and they just didn't like the idea of it. Even when you look at the history of the development that everybody always brings up all the time, which was, of course, the development of airplanes, the ability to fly, whatever you like to say, airplanes, whatever, the ability to fly. When you actually look at the history books, once again, who were the ones who were against it the most? Conservatives, okay? And we see this trend happen all the time, okay? Whether it could be technology, the development of the infrastructure of the nation, or even monuments nowadays that people, specifically conservatives, ironically, take so much pride in saying, "Oh, this is a sign of America's great history." We actually, when you look at the history books, the people who were against that politically were conservative. Even Mount Rushmore, for crying out loud, which is considered the most greatest thing, one of the greatest things for the sign of America, when it comes to the history and stuff, was actually, from what I recall, conservatives at the time hated it, as well as the development of the White House as we know it today, which actually the latest development that happened was an early 1900s, a lot of conservatives hated it. So, whether I'm right on these exact facts or not, look it up yourself. Overall, literally everything that has made the world actually better has been supported by people who are liberals, okay? And not conservatives, to be honest with you. Because the truth of the matter is, when it comes to liberalism as an ideology is literally perfect, okay? The only thing it fucks up for is of course the morality issue, which, to be honest with you, I'm going to keep it real, even though I know it's not popular for liberals to say this. I believe society-wise, we've reached a level for morality that's perfectionism, okay? First and foremost, we believe it's wrong for people to have poor hygiene, okay? Secondly, for that matter, okay, we've developed an idea of what's acceptable to do when it comes to things like eating. Like, for example, we're not going to eat other human beings and stuff, or even things that relate to human beings, which actually, even in recent history, people used to do. And thirdly, another one, which is going to be a very controversial one, we've realized that, homosexuality is not really the most moral lifestyle. You can do it if you want to, but we're not going to, teach people being gay is okay, because when you look at it, being gay is actually a very immoral behavior, when you look at it, it doesn't work, it's wrong, and it destroys families, okay? But in the end of the day, the difference is that, but the thing is, I should say, there's a difference between I'm going to go out of my way to terrorize gay people, versus I'm going to let them live the life they want to live, even though I personally don't think it's the best life to live. And in other words, people can decide if they want to be gay, but we're going to make it clear, okay, this is maybe not the best life to live. That's how liberalism in the past used to be. And before this woke crap took over and fucked up everything. But anyway, the point of the matter is that aside from morality, the morality issue, which is kind of sketchy for liberalism, the truth of the matter is they literally are perfect, because you always have to advocate for change. Conservatism, to be honest with you, even though I know some conservatives say, well, no, not all conservatives are like this, and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And yes, to a certain extent, that might be true. But the truth is, if you have an ideology that fundamentally teaches people in the first place, change is not something that should happen, for that matter, or if change does happen, it should happen very slowly and gradually, not rapidly, then what the fuck do you think is going to happen? You're obviously going to have an ideology that overall, is going to be slow, because if a lot of people are taught to think a certain way, it doesn't take much brilliance to realize that there's going to be a lot of people who, really do not want things to fucking change. And that is the honest truth of the matter. So the truth be told, things for human society to succeed and thrive always have to change, okay? Because the truth of the matter is, I just feel like if we are not advocates for change in this world, like our society does not consistently focus on changing and developing, whether it comes down to things like technology, medicine, infrastructure, all that type of stuff, military, anything you can think of, I just feel like the things that happen to groups of people in the past, who were conquered, interestingly enough, by Europeans, by white Europeans, whether it could be the British, the French, the Spanish, whatever, I feel like that is going to kind of, in a way, is going to kind of happen to us, in the modern world. Like, I just feel like nations like America, Britain, and Western nations, and just any nation that embraces conservatism, I just feel like the thing that happened to people who just never, cultures more like that never developed in the past, I feel is going to happen to them. And that's why I believe conservatism is a very dangerous way of thinking, because it just always screws things up, whenever we look at it, for that matter. Yes, you have to have different political parties and stuff, because not everyone's right on everything. But at the same time, we also have to fucking realize at the same damn time, if you have a party that kind of teaches people overall to always not want things to change, then it's going to cause problems, especially when you take in consideration that some people are naturally, which is exactly what the founding fathers actually said they didn't want to happen. And guess what? It happened, for that matter. There's going to be some people who are naturally going to politically, associate themselves, let alone their identity, with a certain political party. Like some people are going to say, oh, I'm going to consider myself a conservative, which makes it more likely now we have a bunch of people who don't want things to change all the time, which is going to make things even fucking worse. So in short, to answer your question, I definitely believe liberalism is better than conservatism. If they could just get past the annoying morality freaking issue, for that matter, I think things are going to be a lot better. Okay, because morally, I feel as society we've reached perfection. Okay, I just feel like we just simply, you know, as a whole, need to focus on developing other parts of reality and not just, of course, morality. If liberals can go back to how they used to be, whether it's that or even getting rid of the communist bullshit, then they'll do a lot better. And that's the truth. And that's all I have to say, and I'm out.